my God. I am literally staring into the abyss. Like, I am sitting here in the absolute smoldering wreckage of this week's reality TV, just staring down the barrel of a 7-year intimacy drought and a wildly aggressive F-bomb at a Hamptons dinner table. And I am just wondering if true love is actually just, I don't know, a failing pastel-colored beverage company. I am emotionally destroyed today. I am physically exhausted, but babes, good morning to you, babes. Happy Wednesday. It's the midpoint of the week. And babes, we are so glad to have you. So cheers to you.
Cheers to the Snark squad, honestly.
Yeah.
Surviving another week in this, deeply unserious simulation we call life. Though, speaking of simulations that are completely glitching out and shutting down right now, we have an actual tragedy to address before we even get into the Hamptons mess.
You do. We really do.
We need to take a collective, solemn moment of silence. Snark Squad, we need to take a moment to mourn Spirit Airlines.
I am in actual mourning. I am wearing black in my soul today. The collapse of Spirit Airlines is literally the end of an era. And I know people are online celebrating, but I am devastated.
I mean, it was a sociological experiment.
It was a lawless, chaotic, completely unhinged skybus. And the aviation industry will honestly never be the same.
Where else in modern society could you pay 14 American dollars for a seat that is essentially like a plastic lawn chair wrapped in pleather?
Right, a lawn chair that structurally cannot recline.
Exactly. While simultaneously sharing your armrest with a woman holding a loose emotional support parakeet, nowhere. Spirit was the last frontier.
It really was.
You would sit at Terminal C and you would watch two grown, mortgage-paying adults engage in bare-knuckle, gladiator-style boxing over a tiny sliver of overhead bin space. And this is before the plane is even pushed back from the gate.
It was an absolute survival game. That is the only way to describe it. Flying Spirit felt like you were cast in the Hunger Games, but the cornucopia was just the boarding desk.
Pretty much.
You are paying $3 for room temperature water. You are breathing recycled panic from the vents overhead. You are fighting for your absolute life, trying to prove your personal item fits in that metal sizer thing, while the gate agent looks at you like you are the gum on the bottom of her shoe.
It stripped away all class divides. It really did.
It was horrific, yes, but babes, it was magic.
It was character building. Honestly, I think it should have been a mandatory prerequisite for adulthood.
Yay, I totally agree.
You walk onto a Spirit flight and the ego death is immediate. You are no longer a CEO or an influencer or a barista. You are just a fragile meat sack hoping the duct tape on the left wing holds together over the Midwest.
Duct tape, literally.
But now that it's gone, the market is entirely disrupted. The vacuum left behind is terrifying. Now you'll obviously need a private jet.
Right.
Because, babes, how else are you supposed to travel now?
Honestly, manifesting a PJ right now because my trauma from budget airlines is entirely too deep to go back to regular commercial flying.
Oh, we know.
The Snark squad knows I have absolutely zero emotional regulation when I travel. I operate at a baseline of sheer panic from the moment I leave my driveway.
A baseline of panic is a gentle way to phrase it.
Okay, rude. But I have to tell you, and I haven't even recovered from this yet, by the way, I had a full, emotionally scarring, deeply humiliating airport meltdown recently.
Wait, define meltdown. Are we talking a single tear behind oversized sunglasses, or are we talking full toddler in the grocery store wailing?
I am talking ugly, hyperventilating public disgrace.
Oh, wow. Do tell.
So I was at the gate, right, and I had my little carry-on. Now listen to me. I swear on my love, this bag has fit on every single flight I have ever taken. It has been to Paris. It has been to Cabo. It has survived a bachelorette party in Nashville. It is a standard, cute, appropriately sized hard shell roller. And this gate agent, who I am convinced was an actual demon sent from the underworld specifically to test my sanity, looks at my bag, then looks at me and says the dreaded words.
Let me guess. It has to go in the sizer.
Yes. He says it has to go in the size.
Oh, the metal box of doom. The great equalizer. Let me guess. You tried to confidently drop it in, acting like physics simply wouldn't apply to you.
The metal box of doom, yes. I confidently drop it in thinking, watch this, Brenda and babes. It sticks out
Obviously.
by maybe like 1 inch. 1 ENCH. The little plastic wheels were just hovering over the top of the metal rim, mocking me. And the agent looks at me dead in the eye with a sociopathic lack of empathy and says, that'll be $89 to check.
But did you actually check the dimensions on their website beforehand? Because you know they changed those parameters arbitrarily to trap you.
Of course not. Who does that? Who is sitting at home with a tape measure checking the exact millimeter of their wheels? You are defending the corporation right now.
I am not defending the corporation.
You are taking the side of Big Sky Bus.
I am pointing out that you are the architect of your own misery. You walked into a trap that was brightly lit and heavily advertised.
Well, the trap worked because
Right.
I didn't even argue. My spirit just broke. I just sat down right there on the floor, on the horribly patterned, definitely unhygienic airport carpet, and I started violently sobbing.
On the carpet, that is a biological hazard.
The sheer humiliation of having to unzip my suitcase on the floor, exposing my absolute mess of a packing job to the entire boarding group. I am frantically trying to shove 3 bulky sweaters into my canvas tote bag. I'm sweating. People are literally stepping over me to scan their boarding passes.
Tell me you didn't have loose underwear falling out.
I will neither confirm nor deny. I am permanently scarred. I will never recover the pieces of my dignity that I left at gate C14.
See, this is the fundamental difference in how we navigate public humiliation. You collapse inward, I project outward.
Oh, please tell me you got humbled. I need to hear that you got humbled.
Completely humbled, but I fought it the entire way down.
Oh.
I prefer to act completely above the chaos, while simultaneously being the direct cause of it.
Could spill it. What happened?
I had a situation recently where I was absolutely fundamentally convinced my boarding group had been called. I heard a 2, I assumed it was me, so I strutted to the scanner. I'm holding this massive overpriced $9 iced oat milk latte that is sweating profusely all over my hand.
Naturally.
I am exuding this completely unearned, villainous confidence. I am ready to board. I am ready to take my window seat. The gate agent scans my phone, and the machine makes that horrible, universally recognizable rejection noise.
The loud buzz. It's so embarrassing.
It flashes bright red. The agent looks at the screen, looks at me, and flatly says, "We are boarding group 2. You are group 5.
Oh, the walk of shame. The slow pivot back to the seating area.
But I didn't pivot. That's the sickness.
Wait, what did you do?
Instead of just saying my bad and stepping aside gracefully, my brain completely short-circuited. My ego refused to accept defeat, so I decided to debate the semantics of the boarding process with her.
You argued with the gate agent?
I'm standing there, sipping this sugary iced coffee, arguing that, logically, if Group 2 is currently in the physical act of boarding, Group 5 should be allowed to queue in the designated peripheral area to streamline the transition.
You did not say designated peripheral area to a gate agent.
I absolutely did.
Yeah.
I used the phrase designated peripheral area to a woman who has been awake since 3 a.m. and makes $18 an hour to deal with monsters like me.
I am screaming.
The sheer blinding delusion on my part, I was completely unhinged. I was acting like I was on the board of directors for the FAA while simultaneously holding up a line of 40 exhausted families who just wanted to get to Orlando. I eventually had to slink away to a pillar and hide behind a charging station until they called Group 5.
We are both absolute disasters. We should not be allowed in public transport hubs, which is exactly why we need to self-medicate immediately.
Board up.
The wine is absolutely on deck. Snark Squad, grab your glasses. Tonight's wine is a Moscato from Jacob's Creek. Unsponsored, of course, because companies look at our mess of a show and immediately run the other way. And babes, it is so good.
Let's actually pause and look at the hot girl math of this specific bottle, because there is a deep psychological trap we all fall into with alcohol.
Oh, I love hot girl math. Let's hear it.
The industry has masterfully conditioned us to believe that expensive wine is inherently superior, right? It relies on this pricing model where we assume a $60 bottle has complex notes of, I don't know, oak, leather, and sophisticated regret.
Sophisticated regret?
We convince ourselves that burning our throats on dry, bitter tannins is a sign of high culture.
Yes. You go to a fancy dinner, someone orders a $100 bottle of cab, and you take a sip, and it tastes like literal dirt. It tastes like tree bark.
Exactly.
But everyone at the table is swirling their glasses and nodding like, ah, yes, earthy. No, you are lying. You want a Capri Sun.
Exactly. We shame ourselves for liking sweet things. But mathematically, look at what happens when you go to a trendy bar. You are paying $15 plus tip for one single meager pour of something that probably came out of a plastic bladder in the back room anyway.
So true.
You buy this entire bottle of Jacob's Creek for $10. If you get 4 glasses out of it, and those glasses would cost $15 out in the wild, you are basically generating a profit of $50 just by sitting on your couch. You are essentially being paid by the universe to drink this wine.
I love this logic so much.
So the debate is, are expensive wines a total scam, or are we just delightfully tacky for refusing to evolve our palates?
We are delightfully tacky, and I refuse to apologize for it. I am absolutely spiraling right now because for $10, this specific Moscato is honestly life-changing.
It goes down like juice.
It is actively fixing my midweek depression as we speak. It tastes like peach rings. It tastes like poor decisions from my early 20s. It is pure, unadulterated sugar, and it is exactly what I need right now. Like, honestly, between the airport trauma and the sheer stress of pouring this wine, I am realizing I desperately hope another budget airline pops up. Because, honestly, you need a girls' trip.
We need an escape.
I need a girls' trip. The entire Snark squad needs to pack their bags right now. We have to escape.
We desperately need to escape our current reality and adopt completely delusional vacation personalities, because that's what a girls' trip really is, right?
It's all about the alter ego.
It's not about the destination. It's about the temporary identity you adopt when you get there. So let's map this out. Where are we going? Are we attempting to survive the high-octane, base-pumping chaos of Ibiza or Mykonos?
Oh, babes, listen to me carefully. If we went to Ibiza, we would literally not survive. We would perish.
I mean, the humidity alone.
I would pack these completely unhinged, sequined, neon cutout outfits that look incredible under ring lights for Instagram, but practically require industrial double-sided tape and a prayer to keep my internal organs inside my body.
True.
We would land. We would immediately order these massive, sugary, glowing fishbowl drinks at 2 p.m. at a day club. And by 4 p.m., I guarantee you, I would be crying in the hotel bathroom because my feet are bleeding from the heels and I just miss my own bed.
That is the tragic reality of the party vacation industrial complex. We like to think we have the stamina for it. We buy the outfits for it. We curate the Pinterest boards.
But the reality is so dark.
Look at the physiological toll.
Yeah.
Standing in a crowded club in Mykonos until 4 a.m. requires a cardiovascular endurance that neither of us possesses.
Oh,
Fundamentally, I am a resort girly.
same. Give me a cabana.
The entire concept of an adventure vacation is lost on me. I want to lay perfectly flat on a thickly padded chaise lounge next to a body of water, like a cold-blooded lizard absorbing UV rays.
Like a lizard. Yes.
I want a man named Felipe to bring me a frozen margarita at precisely 45-minute intervals. That is the peak human experience.
Wait, but what about the girls who do the cultural walking tours? Or the girls who wake up early to hike a volcano?
The idea of being an adventure girly, waking up at 6 a.m. on a vacation, setting an alarm to go for a hike, that is not leisure. That is unpaid manual labor.
I am screaming. Unpaid manual labor.
I truly believe that the intense desire to do activities on vacation is a symptom of a deep psychological disorder where people are terrified of sitting quietly with their own thoughts. They have to distract themselves with ziplining because if they sit still on a beach, they might realize they hate their jobs.
But you are so right. A hike. On vacation, absolutely not. The only elevation I want to experience is lifting my arm to take a sip of a pina colada.
That's the only cardio I'm doing.
I want to be entirely horizontal by a body of water, holding a frozen sugary drink with a tiny little paper umbrella in it. That is my truth. But even then, let's be real about the concept of relaxing. Vacations aren't actually relaxing.
No, they are high-stress logistical nightmares.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You spend an absolute fortune. You meticulously pack all of your daily anxiety into a hard-shell suitcase. You drag it through a hellish airport, and you just take your anxiety to a beach.
You're just anxious with a tan.
You are still the same stressed out person. You just have sand in places you don't want sand to be. It's not relaxation. It's just an expensive location change for your breakdowns.
An expensive location change for your breakdowns. We need to trademark that and put it on a t-shirt immediately, because that perfectly encapsulates the human condition.
It really does.
And speaking of incredibly expensive location changes for epic, world-ending breakdowns, we have to go to the Hamptons. We have to talk about Summer House.
Oh my God, yes. Babes, buckle up because we have to talk about Summer House. First of all, I am absolutely freaking out. I am beside myself because Bravo completely tricked everyone. They played us like fiddles.
They really did pull a fast one on us.
Season 10 usually has 15 episodes, right? We have been trained like Pavlovian dogs for 3 seasons straight that episode 15 is the finale. So I sat down on the couch, wine poured, phone on Do Not Disturb, mentally preparing myself for closure.
Ready to say goodbye?
And episode 15, which was titled Full House, by the way, was not the finale. There are 16 episodes, plus they're filming a massive 2-part reunion. I felt like I was losing my mind. I was screaming at the television.
It's the ultimate reality TV bait and switch. The producers looked at the raw footage of this season, looked at the absolute nuclear fallout happening in these relationships, and realized they couldn't condense it.
There's too much mess.
They are milking this tension for every single drop of advertising revenue, and honestly, I respect the hustle. But let's look at the actual architecture of this episode. We have to break down the build-up to this driveway fight, which the internet is calling the Fire Festival fight.
Because it was a disaster. But wait, how did it even start? Because it felt like it went from 0 to 100 in 3 seconds.
It started with a masterclass in covert instigation. We have the dinner table scene. Now, watch Lindsay closely.
Always watching Lindsay.
Lindsay, in a move of pure, calculated tactical genius, weaponized insider information regarding Kyle's business dealings with Loverboy. She didn't just start yelling out of nowhere. She waited until the entire group was seated, captive, and paying attention.
She is a sniper.
Then, she systematically targeted his deepest vulnerabilities, his failing business, and his abysmal treatment of Amanda. She planted the bomb, lit the fuse, and then just sat back and watched the explosion.
She knew exactly what she was doing. She hit him right in the ego. And I reacted so emotionally to the actual fight because Kyle just completely snaps. He cannot handle a woman publicly questioning his authority or his success.
Never.
So he throws a full can of Loverboy. It was aggressive. And then Carl jumps in.
We have to dissect why Carl jumps in. Carl claims he is jumping in to defend Lindsay's honor against Kyle's yelling. But let's peel back the layers of delusion here.
Please do.
Carl is holding on to months, if not years, of deep-seated resentment because Kyle refused to financially back his soft bar, sober nightlife venture. Carl feels abandoned by his best friend and business mentor.
Oh, absolutely.
So Carl isn't really defending Lindsay. He is using Lindsay as a socially acceptable shield to finally attack Kyle's character because his own feelings are hurt.
Yes. It was a proxy war. Carl is projecting all of his business insecurities onto this dinner table argument. But the physical fight itself, I have to say, it was hilarious.
It was pure slapstick.
Watching a very tall person versus a relatively short person fight is pure physical comedy. Carl's towering over him, puffing his chest out, screaming, "Thanks for your lack of support of me, you fucking loser." And Kyle, from down below, is craning his neck upward, calling Carl a 6'5" mother fur.
The height difference was staggering.
It's giving major little brother energy. Carl is shouting for Kyle to hit him, and Kyle is just sort of like flailing in the driveway.
Yeah. I have to agree with that brilliant Vulture recap we read this morning. The metaphor they used was perfect. This fight was hyped up in the mid-season trailers like an all-you-can-eat 5-star steakhouse buffet, but when it actually aired, it delivered 2 sweaty slices of American cheese in a styrofoam container.
Literally. Fire Festival.
It was exactly like the Fire Festival. Big promises, zero follow-through. Look at the interviews. Wes talked in his talking heads about having blood all over him. He said there was blood. Where was the blood?
I was scanning the screen for the blood. I paused it. There was no blood. Nobody even landed a punch.
Not even close.
It was just 2 grown men, both pushing 40, standing in a gravel driveway practically doing interpretive dance because they were being held back by a pinky finger from the rest of the cast. If either of them actually wanted to fight, they would have fought, but they just wanted to bark.
Watching Kyle and Carl fight is literally like watching 2 golden retrievers bark aggressively at each other through a sliding glass door. It looks vicious, there's a lot of noise, a lot of teeth, but the second you slide the door open, they just sniff each other, get confused, and lie down on the rug.
Oh my God, that is so accurate.
But amidst the barking, there's a linguistic choice that we absolutely must dissect.
The insult. Babes, the insult made me absolutely lose my mind. I fell off the couch.
It was unprecedented.
Kyle, in the heat of this raging, vein-popping argument, points at Carl and calls him a vagicil. A vagicil. What does that even mean? How does your brain even construct that as an insult?
It was a fascinating window into the crumbling architecture of Kyle's brain. Obviously, he wanted to call Carl a P-word. He wanted to use a specific, highly derogatory piece of female anatomy to emasculate him.
Right, the usual toxic insult.
But under the pressure of the cameras, the adrenaline, and whatever alcohol he consumed, his internal autocorrect panicked, and he landed on an over-the-counter vaginal itching relief cream. He called a 6'5" man an antifungal cream.
I cannot breathe, an antifungal cream.
But the real layer of snark here, the true reality TV underbelly, look at Lindsay's face when he says it. You know, Lindsay was standing just off camera, hearing the word vagicil echo through the Hamptons night sky, and immediately calculating how to monetize it.
Oh, 1,000%.
Her influencer brain activated. I can vividly picture her pulling out her phone, texting her manager in the middle of the fight, whispering, "We can get a 20K brand deal from Vagicil out of this exact moment. Let me call corporate. I'll do a sponsored post about soothing irritation."
Stop it. She totally would. When the house gets toxic, I turn to Vagicil. She is a mastermind. But speaking of the women's reactions to this mess, we have to talk about Bailey.
Oh, babe.
Because Bailey was standing in the driveway, watching Carl scream obscenities and threaten another man's physical safety, and she was incredibly turned on. And look, I'm going to spiral for a second here. Snark Squad, stay with me.
We are entering dangerous territory. Proceed.
I know toxic masculinity is an absolute mess. I know we spend years unlearning it. I know we shouldn't condone violence. But I kind of agreed with Bailey.
I mean, you're not the only one.
I'm just saying. Angry, veins popping, fiercely protective, I will beat the F out of you. Carl was kind of hot. Like, there is something deeply primal about seeing a giant man ready to destroy property to defend his woman. Am I a bad feminist for saying that? Am I broken?
You aren't broken. You are just battling millions of years of evolutionary biology. It's the primal wiring of the human brain. We can spend a decade in cognitive behavioral therapy unlearning toxic masculinity, reading feminist literature, and demanding emotional intelligence from our partners.
Right, doing the work.
But the second we see a 6'5" man threaten to smash a rival like the Incredible Hulk, our lizard brains just light up and go, yes, big men protect the cave, big men keep tigers away. It's embarrassing, but it's true. Bailey was just verbalizing the quiet part out loud.
Yes, protect the cave. But of course, the illusion of the big tough caveman is completely shattered by what happens next. Which brings us to the most baffling phenomenon on planet Earth. The next morning.
The apology, the bromance 180.
The next morning, I was in absolute disbelief at how the male species operates. The sun comes up, the birds are chirping. Kyle walks upstairs and goes to Carl's room. First of all, the room is a biohazard.
A literal dump.
Kyle is carefully stepping over massive piles of actual garbage, empty cans, and dirty laundry scattered all over the floor because these men live like actual raccoons. He sits down on the edge of the unmade bed, and they just hug it out.
Yep, it's a hug.
12 hours after threatening to destroy each other's livelihoods and physical bodies, Kyle is literally crying on Carl's sleeve, burying his face in his shoulder.
This is where I want to really dig into the mechanics of male friendships because it is absurd. Let's trace the timeline of events. At 10 p.m., they are screaming obscenities that would end a marriage. They almost physically dent a luxury BMW in the driveway.
A very nice car, by the way.
They threaten actual police involving bodily harm. By 10 a.m. the next day, the entire conflict is resolved with 2 sentences. Sorry, bro, I was heated. Me too, bro, love you. And it's over. The slate is wiped clean.
It makes no sense. Where is the processing? Where is the accountability?
There is none. Because male conflict is largely performative posturing. Once the physical energy is expelled, the grudge evaporates. Now contrast that with the female dynamics happening in that exact same house, at that exact same time. Amanda and Lindsay.
Oh my God, the grudges.
Amanda and Lindsay are still holding on to deep-seated corrosive grudges from season 1 over an outfit, over a slight shift in vocal tone from 4 years ago. Women will hold a grudge until the sun burns out and collapses into a white dwarf.
We really will. I'm still mad at a girl from high school.
We will remember the exact phrasing of a backhanded compliment from 2018, but men will try to literally murder each other with a patio chair and then split an everything bagel with cream cheese the next morning like nothing happened.
It is so true, and it's so incredibly frustrating as a viewer because the main issue, the failing business, the lack of support, didn't even get resolved. They just hugged and ignored the underlying rot. Which transitions us perfectly into the darkest part of this episode, Kyle and Amanda's marriage.
Marriage is a very generous term for whatever hostage situation we are currently watching on screen.
It is an absolute shambles. Let's talk about the F you heard around the Hamptons. Kyle is at the dinner table. He is cornered. He is defensive. And he looks directly at his wife in front of all of their friends, in front of the camera crew, and says, point blank, F you.
Vile behavior.
And Amanda. The reaction. She reaches up and she takes off her earrings. Babes, any woman listening to this knows exactly what that means. When a woman reaches up and unclasps her hoop earrings, she is no longer using her words. She's threatening to physically punch you in the face. I was screaming at my screen.
The earring removal is the universal sign of impending physical combat. But let's look at Kyle's behavior here. Kyle was a complete pendulum of violently dysregulated emotions this entire episode. He's lashing out like a wounded animal, then suddenly he's crying and playing the victim, and he's raging again.
It gave me whiplash.
It is exhausting to watch. But looking at the online discourse specifically, I was reading through the massive threads on the Summer House Bravo Reddit. The consensus was incredibly unified. The moment you say F you to your spouse in public, You wipe out any valid argument you might have had.
Exactly. You lose the moral high ground instantly.
Completely. Whatever point Kyle was trying to make about feeling unsupported by Amanda regarding Loverboy or feeling like she doesn't respect his work ethic, all of that is completely obliterated by the verbal abuse of cursing out your wife.
You just can't do that.
You cannot demand respect while simultaneously degrading your partner in front of a live audience. It instantly flips the narrative. He becomes the villain, regardless of whether his underlying business complaints had merit.
And just when you think he can't get any worse, he outdoes himself. The clubbing incident. Snark Squad, I am still screaming about this. They have this massive relationship-altering fight at the table. The FU happens. Amanda is sobbing.
Sobbing uncontrollably.
She is deeply visibly distressed, having a full-blown emotional breakdown in the house, surrounded by the girls. And what does her husband do? What does Kyle Cooke do?
Please illuminate us on his stellar husband of the year behavior.
He abandons his sobbing wife. He walks upstairs, puts on a brand new, carefully curated party outfit, calls himself an Uber, and goes clubbing in the Hamptons until the early hours of the morning. Who does that? What kind of sociopath leaves their crying spouse to go fist pump to EDM music?
Someone who is profoundly, fundamentally disconnected from their partner's reality. The compartmentalization required to leave a crying wife, step into an Uber, and immediately shift your brain into party mode is terrifying.
It's actually scary.
It shows a complete lack of empathy. But honestly, the clubbing incident pales in comparison to the most shocking reveal of the night. The piece of data that completely shifts the context of their entire relationship dynamic over the last several seasons.
I know exactly what you are going to say, and my stomach drops just thinking about it.
Kyle claiming, on camera, that they haven't had sex in 7 years.
7 years.
7 years. 7 years with no intimacy, no physical connection, no attention, and essentially no romantic partnership.
Yeah.
That is not a dry skull. That is a staggering metric.
I had to pause the TV. I literally paused it, grabbed my phone, and texted you in all caps. I was like, did my ears just malfunction? Did he just say 7 years? Babes, 7 years is an eternity.
It's nearly a decade.
7 years ago, we were in a different political administration. 7 years ago, half the apps on my phone didn't exist. That is a drought. That is a desolate, barren desert of a marriage.
It's an archaeological era. You're practically carbon baiting the last time you held hands. This revelation sparked a massive, highly analytical debate on Reddit, which was fascinating to dive into. We saw this brilliant multi-paragraph breakdown from a user who was discussing the rampant overuse of therapy speak online.
Oh, everyone wants to be a psychologist on TikTok now. It's so annoying.
Exactly. People were instantly labeling Kyle's behavior strictly as narcissistic verbal abuse and painting Amanda as the helpless victim of his rage. But this one user argued something much more nuanced. They posited that it's not a one-sided abuse dynamic, but rather a mutually toxic, highly dysregulated relationship where both individuals actively provoke each other to the brink of insanity.
Okay, wait, unpack that. How is Amanda provoking him? She's just sitting there crying half the time.
The user broke it down on a 1 to 10 emotional scale. In a healthy dynamic, when argument hits a 6, when voices raise and pulses quicken, one or both partners will recognize the escalation and walk away to regulate their nervous systems. They take a beat.
Right, they calm down.
Amanda and Kyle do the exact opposite. They immediately push each other from a 2 straight to a 10. Amanda weaponizes her silence. She provokes him with smug looks, eye rolls, and public shaming disguised as jokes. She tries to win the table by making him look foolish.
Oh, okay, yes, I see that. She does poke the bear. She loves to drop a sarcastic comment when he's already stressed out of his mind.
Right, and then Kyle snaps, he hits a 10, goes into a blackout rage, loses all impulse control, and verbally attacks her to regain control of the room. It's not necessarily a calculated Machiavellian cycle of power and control. It's just two people who completely lack the basic emotional tools to communicate, and instead, they just mutually terrorize each other.
Mutually terrorize each other. That is exactly what they are doing. They don't even like each other. They just hate each other right now. But wait, we have to push back on this a little bit. Is it possible that the stress of the business is just eating Kyle alive? Because we have to talk about the Loverboy conspiracy that is blowing up online.
The crumbling pastel empire. Yes. I've been doing some serious snooping this week, tracking the YouTube sleuths who are pulling the actual retail analytics on Loverboy. And the data is grim.
Spill. What did they find? Is it over?
Merch is showing up as sold out online, but not in a wow, we're in such high demand way. It's showing up as out of stock in a We have halted production and aren't restocking the warehouses way.
Oh, that's bad.
A ton of the actual alcohol flavors are listed as unavailable on their direct-to-consumer website. You can't even order the core product directly right now. You have to go hunting in random local liquor stores, hoping to find dusty, expired cans rotting in the back of the fridge.
Oh my God. That is so bleak.
So the overarching question is this. Is the business actually quietly tanking behind the scenes, bleeding money, at the exact same time his marriage is falling apart on national television? Because if both your primary source of income and your romantic partnership are collapsing simultaneously under the weight of public scrutiny, the stress must be astronomical.
Yeah, you would snap.
It doesn't excuse his behavior, but it explains the absolute manic desperation in his eyes.
That is so incredibly dark, to lose your company and your wife on Bravo. But honestly, Amanda doesn't seem that stressed about the marriage collapsing. Because of Snark Squad, she is very clearly distracted by someone else. We have to get into the emotional affair rumors. West, Ciara, and Amanda.
The triangle nobody saw coming.
Babes, I am freaking out over the scene in the kitchen after the big fight. Amanda finds West, not one of her girlfriends. She goes to West, and she gives him this massive, lingering, incredibly tight, entirely too intimate hug.
It lasted an uncomfortable amount of time.
It lasted so long, and while her face is buried in his neck, she literally says audibly, "I love you," to Wes.
Notice how that hug lasted exactly 3 seconds longer than any platonic hug between co-stars should ever last. That is the physical manifestation of a woman desperately looking for an emotional life raft. I will gladly feed the delusion here because the Reddit theories are pointing to a very subtle, simmering emotional affair happening all summer between West and Amanda.
It makes so much sense. I am fully buying into this theory.
If you go back and watch the tapes, look at the background body language during the massive Kyle and Carl fight in the driveway. While everyone else is screaming and holding people back, where is West and who is he talking to?
Oh, I noticed this too.
He is glued to Amanda's side. He is whispering in her ear. He is checking on her. There is an undercurrent of emotional intimacy and reliance there that is deeply inappropriate given the fragile state of her marriage. He is giving her the gentle, attentive validation that her husband refuses to give her.
It is so messy. She is seeking comfort in the new guy. And meanwhile, the true tragedy of this situation is poor Ciara. I cried for her. I actually shed a tear when Ciara was sitting on the bed talking to Lindsay, and she called Wes the person I love the most. Babes, my heart shattered into a million pieces.
It was painful to watch.
It is so humiliating to watch a stunning, successful woman get in so deep for a man who is giving her absolutely nothing.
He is giving her less than nothing. He's giving her the illusion of something.
Exactly. She is down bad. She is keeping track of the exact number of days they've been talking. She is planning a future. And he is just feeding her mixed signals and goofy grins.
Let's dissect West's strategy here because it is insidious. West is executing a textbook masterclass breadcrumbing strategy. It is genuinely painful to watch as a viewer because we see the trap and Ciara doesn't. Look at his conversation with Jesse.
Oh, I hated that scene.
He jokes with Jesse about the rule of Jesse sleeping in Ciara's bed so the boys can cuddle. West says, "Who wants to stick to that rule?" Just kidding. Just kidding.
That enraged me. He is using her bed as a punchline.
He is constantly testing the waters. He masks his true intentions with this goofy golden retriever, "I'm just a silly guy" humor. But look at what he does when he's isolated with the other men or the cameras. He constantly tells everyone else in the house that he's avoiding a relationship. He says he's not ready for the love thing. His words and his actions are in complete opposition.
But do you think he is doing it maliciously? Or is he just a dumb guy who doesn't know what he wants? Because guys are dumb.
Oh, it is absolutely calculated. He flirts with Ciara just enough to keep her on the hook, ensuring he has a romantic storyline to secure his spot on the show. But he lays the groundwork behind her back, telling the cameras he wants out.
So he can point to the footage later.
Exactly. He does this so that when the relationship inevitably blows up, he can say, "Look, I told you guys I wasn't ready. I was honest." He wants to look like the sane, reasonable guy while making her look crazy and overly attached. He is a walking factory of red flags.
He is. He is weaponizing his own supposed incompetence, which makes the entire vibe of the house so dark heading into the end of the episode. We have to talk about the party. The legendary, tragic après-ski party.
A conceptual nightmare from start to finish.
They have to mock this party. The theme is après-ski in July. Now, Snark Squad, picture the Hamptons in mid-July. It is 100 degrees outside. The humidity is probably sitting at a swampy 90%. You walk outside and you instantly start sweating. And these people are out there in the backyard wearing thick faux fur coats, heavy knit beanies, and massive reflective ski goggles.
The sheer lack of self-awareness, the dedication to a bit that is actively giving them heat stroke.
But out of all the outfits, we must roast Sabrina.
Right.
We have to. Sabrina shows up to this daytime, outdoor, 100-degree summer party wearing a floor-length, heavy black lace Morticia Adams gown.
It was a choice.
She pairs it with knee-high, fur-lined Ugg boots and a thick black velvet choker.
In July, it was aggressively atrocious. It wasn't just a miss. It was a crime against fashion and meteorology.
Sabrina always misses the mark. Always. She looked like she was going to a gothic funeral in an igloo. Compare that to Dara. Dara completely understood the assignment.
Dara looked great.
Dara slayed. She wore a tiny little bikini, threw a cropped neon blue fuzzy jacket over her shoulders, and put the ski goggles on her head as an accessory. She understood the thermodynamics of a summer party. She gave us the theme while still accommodating the fact that they were standing on the surface of the sun.
Dara understands proportion and context.
Yeah.
Sabrina operates in a vacuum of bad taste. But amidst all of this visual and emotional chaos, there was actually one fleeting moment of humanity.
Yes. I want to take a super quick emotional detour because I did cry again. Shocking, I know. I am a very hydrated crier. About KJ and Mia.
That was really sweet.
KJ sits Mia down and he invites her to spend the holidays with him and his mom. Mia recently lost her parents. She is navigating profound grief, and KJ says, "Let's create new traditions together." Babes, it was such a wholesome, beautiful, grounded moment in a house that is otherwise filled with absolute toxicity and narcissism.
It was a necessary palate cleanser before the storm. Because we need to look ahead. The producers are filming a massive 2-part reunion for this season. The couches are going to be a war zone. Let's get into our reunion predictions. Smart Squad, who is screaming at who? What is the main event going to be?
Oh, the main event has to be West and Amanda. I demand Andy Cohen hold their feet to the fire. I want to know if they get confronted with the emotional affair allegations. Do they double down and protect each other? Do they admit the lines were crossed? Do they deny it completely and make us look crazy?
They will absolutely deny it. They will say, "We are just great friends. You guys are reading into it." And Kyle's going to be sitting on that couch, sweating profusely, interrupting everyone, and defending his honor while his company bleeds money. It's going to be a defensive masterclass in shifting blame.
Kyle is going to lose his absolute mind. But what about Ciara? Does she confront West?
My prediction for Ciara: I don't think she is even going to return to the show next season. Think about the trajectory of her career right now. She's been tapped to host an after-sun show. She just booked Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, sure.
Rehearsals for that start in August, right when they normally film Summer House. She is completely outgrowing this toxic frat house environment. Why on earth would she go back to sharing a dirty bathroom with 30-something men who don't know how to wash a dish just to be emotionally manipulated by a guy in a trucker hat?
She shouldn't. She should run.
She's too big for this mess now. Her czar is rising. She might pop in for a cameo weekend to show off a revenge body, but as a full-time cast member, she's done.
I would be so incredibly proud of her if she just walked away. Just walk away, Ciara. Walk away from the Hamptons, walk away from the faux fur parties, and walk away from West and his breadcrumbs. Okay, Snark Squad, we have vented, we have cried, we have judged. It is time for our favorite part of the week. Let's get into our specific awards and rankings based on the chaos we just witnessed.
Let's start with a hypothetical scenario to test their competence. If this entire cast was booked on a 6 a.m. flight out of JFK, who is absolutely missing the flight, we need a ranking.
Oh, this is easy. Kyle is the undisputed champion of missing the flight. But he wouldn't miss it because he overslept or got stuck in traffic. No, he would get to the airport 3 hours early.
Exactly. He would get through TSA with pre-check, feeling incredibly smug about his time management. But then he would get distracted. He would wander into a Chili's, too, in the far end of Terminal B.
Yes, exactly.
He would order a lukewarm Stella Artois at 4:30 in the morning. And he would just sit there, staring at his phone, having a solo mumble session. He would be muttering disparaging things about his life and his wife to himself, sounding like Robert Durst in the Jinx bathroom.
Oh my God, the muttering.
He would completely ignore the final boarding calls echoing through the terminal, and he would end up pressing his face against the glass, watching his plane push back from the gate while holding his beer.
Stranded at the Chili's, too. Yes, that is exactly what happens. Now, Amanda would also miss the flight, but the mechanics of her failure are completely different. Amanda would arrive at the gate right as boarding starts. but she would look at the slightly long line of people waiting to scan their tickets. She would become immediately violently overwhelmed by the sheer concept of standing in a queue, and she would just lay down on the floor.
She would assume the fetal position near a charging station.
Yes. She would pull her hoodie over her eyes and refuse to move. She would simply decide that living out the rest of her days in Terminal 4 is emotionally easier than boarding a crowded tube.
Precisely. Let's pivot to our weekly Delusion Awards. We have to crown the cast member who is living in the most profound, impenetrable fantasy world this week. Who takes the crown?
It is so hard to choose, but I have to give my nomination to Kyle. I cannot let go of the DJ career. Kyle honestly, truly believes in his soul that having a DJ career is a valid personality trait and a legitimate artistic pursuit. Babes, you are a 40-year-old man pressing the spacebar on a MacBook Pro in a crowded room while adjusting the bass knob. You are not Avicii. You are not creating art. It is not a calling. It is a textbook, neon-lit midlife crisis.
He has aggressive regression to his frat days to cope with his failing marriage. It's a strong contender for the award.
Yeah.
But I have to override you. I am giving the ultimate delusion award to West.
Yeah.
Because West's delusion is actively harming other people. West truly, deeply believes that he's the good guy of the house. He looks in the mirror and sees a hero.
He really does.
He thinks that because he employs this goofy, harmless, golden retriever persona, he is somehow absolved from the immense emotional damage he's inflicting on Ciara. He thinks his charm negates his cruelty. He is living in a fantasy where his refusal to commit is just him being a chill guy going with the flow, rather than recognizing it as deeply manipulative, self-centered behavior that strings a woman along for screen time. His delusion shields him from accountability.
The chill guy defense is the most manipulative tactic of all. Men will ruin your life and then tell you they're just going with the flow. Okay, moving on to vacation red flags. If you were dating one of these people, what was the most unhinged behavior shown in this episode that would make you immediately pack your bags and flee the Airbnb?
The absolute biggest red flag, a behavior so jarring it should be studied by relationship counselors globally, is the clubbing incident. Leaving an unresolved, emotionally devastating, foundation-cracking fight with your sobbing wife just so you can put on a fresh linen shirt and go fist pump at a club.
Disgusting.
The level of psychological compartmentalization required to do that means the person has completely walled off their empathy. If my partner did that to me, the locks would be changed before the sun came up.
Terrifying. It is actual sociopathy. My red flag is exactly what you mentioned earlier, the muttering to yourself. Kyle pacing through the hallways of the house, whispering horrible, toxic things about Amanda to himself under his breath. It is so dark, it is serial killer coded. Babes, if I'm on a romantic getaway and I catch a man whispering insults to his own reflection in the hallway mirror, I am calling an Uber, I am leaving my luggage behind, and I am never looking back.
It's extremely concerning behavior. It shows a complete lack of internal emotional regulation. All right, final debate for the week. We talked about our dream girls trip earlier. Let's apply it to the cast. Who survives a chaotic girls trip and who perishes?
Lindsay thrives. Lindsay doesn't just survive a chaotic trip, she feeds on the chaos.
Yeah.
She is the apex predator of the vacation ecosystem.
She runs on conflict.
She is the one instigating the massive screaming matches at the beach club at 3 p.m. She is the one negotiating with the promoter to get everyone free bottles of vodka. And somehow, after going to sleep at 5 a.m., she is the one waking up at 8 a.m., looking completely flawless, banging pots and pans together, demanding everyone get up for a boat tour. She is an energy vampire, but in the best way possible for a vacation.
I agree. Lindsay converts drama into caloric energy. She is unstoppable. Amanda, conversely, completely spirals by day 2. The logistics of the trip break her. She refuses to leave the Airbnb. She orders Uber Eats to the villa, stays in her oversized pajamas, and texts her therapist from the couch while everyone else is out at a museum.
Wait, what about Ciara?
Ciara tries. She really genuinely tries to hold the group together. She tries to coordinate the aesthetic. She creates a shared iPhone note. She plans the matching outfits. She makes the dinner reservations 3 months in advance. But by day 3, the sheer, unrelenting chaos of Lindsay and the complete apathy of Amanda breaks her spirit.
Poor Ciara.
She abandons the itinerary, she gives up, and she just sits quietly in the corner of a cabana drinking an Aperol spritz, disassociating.
Honestly, Ciara is me. Just giving up, deleting the shared calendar, and drinking quietly until the flight home.
Oh.
Babes, this has been an absolute journey today. We have laughed, we have cried, we have dismantled the male psyche. Thank you so much to the Snark Squad for hanging out with us, drinking cheap wine, and surviving this massive midweek spiral. We love you so much.
We do. But the conversation doesn't end here. We have some homework for the squad. We need you to engage. First, Go down to the comments right now and drop your absolute worst, most humiliating, deeply traumatic airline story. Share your pain so we feel better about our own meltdowns at the gate.
Yes, validate my tears over the bag sizer. And tell us what your dream chaotic girls trip destination is. Where are we going? Are we doing Miami? Are we doing Tulum? What outfits are we packing? And honestly, drop your favorite slap in the face, dangerously cheap wine recommendations because this $10 Moscato is completely gone. The bottle is empty and I need to restock before the reunion airs. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, babes. It helps us keep the lights on and the wine flowing.
And before we officially sign off, I want to leave you with a final, chilling thought to mull over while you go about the rest of your week. Think about this deeply. If you haven't been physically intimate with your partner in 7 whole years, are you even dating? Or are you just operating a failing pastel-branded beverage company with a very hostile roommate?
Oh my God. Chills. Literally chills down my spine. I need to go lie down, stay chaotic, stay summery, and we will see you on the snark side.